Okay, so now we're going to go through the process of creating a Docker container for our Laravel application. We've already created the application source code by using the Docker Composer image. That downloaded all of the source code and all of the Composer requirements into the vendor directory. So we have that inside the blog directory. So that's a pretty standard layout. You'll notice that the file ownership is owned by root. That's because by default the Composer image runs as the root user. So what we're going to do quickly is just change the ownership of that to our local user, which for me is Chris. And we want to change the blog. Oh, we need sudo for that. Okay. There we go. So now that folder is owned by my local user, that's great. Okay, I'm going to move this templates folder into the blogs directory. I'll come to that in a bit. And I'll move the Docker file inside the blog directory as well. Okay, so let's take a look at the Docker file. So what the objective is to have a container which runs PHP and Apache and allows us to visit the application from running inside the container and externally showing us the application in the web browser. So first what you need to do is copy the source code from our local directory into the Docker container. That's what this line does. Just turn on line numbers. Okay. What we've got going on here is what's called a multi-stage Docker build. So you'll notice that we've got two lines that have the word from in them. We've got line 1 and line 9. What the first from is doing is just simply using Composer to fetch and install all of the dependencies that Laravel has. And then what we're doing on stage 11 is we're copying from that image the vendor directory and all of the source code. And then finally we're copying over a virtual host definition, which is not in that directory, it's in the templates directory. And I'll just quickly show you what that is. So if we look at the templates directory, we've got a pretty standard vhost definition. So we're putting our source code into var www HTML public, and we're allowing the htaccess file to function with the allow override and indexes. Okay, so what we're going to do now is build this container. The container that we're using is PHP 7.3, which has Apache bundled inside of it. Okay. Docker PHP Apache. Okay. So on Docker Hub there's a official image for PHP, and some of the ones made available contain Apache installed. So that's what we're doing. We're taking an image which already has Apache, the web server, installed. Okay, so we're going to build this image now. To do that we'll just do docker build. We'll give it a tag and we'll just call it Laravel, and we'll use the current directory. And what that's doing now is working through step by step each of the commands to build the Docker image. Okay, so it's copied all of the source code over inside the container, and now it's running the Composer install command. Notice that we've got the no dev flag. That prevents Composer from fetching any dev related dependencies. Okay, that's finished. And now it's copying out of that old container into the new container, which contains PHP and Apache. And we're changing the ownership of the files to www data. So the PHP Apache image by default runs Apache as www-data, so we need to make sure that the user permissions are correct. So we're on step 8 out of 12, just on this one, and then it's going to copy over that template for us, and then we're going to enable the site. Okay, great. So now we've got a new image. We can run that. Let's do docker run. And we want to expose the ports, 80, 80. I've forgotten which way around these goes. I think that one's the host container and that one's the container port. Let's just check by looking at the man file. So port -p maybe? Port publish, sorry. Here we go. Yeah, the first one is the host port and the next one is container port. So what we want to do is take the container port 80 and expose that on, let's say, 8084, because I know that port's not being used yet, sorry. And the image that we want to run is Laravel, the one that we've just built. Great. Oh, unable to find it. Did I spell it right? Laravel. No, I didn't spell it right. Laravel. Laravel. There we go. So I spelled it incorrectly, which is embarrassing. Okay, we'll just keep it like that. Ah. Address already in use. Oh, using the wrong port. Let's do 8084. Still in use. Docker PS. Not sure why that's already in use. Let's try 85. There we go. Great. So the container that we've just built is now running, and we should be able to visit the Laravel application in the browser on port 8085. So localhost 8085. Ta-da! There we go. We have Laravel running on our local machine from the Docker container. And we can see here we're getting the requests being served. So if we go to the right and refresh, we look at Docker PS. Oh, it stops. Why did it stop? There we go. There we go. We can see the requests are being served. So now if we wanted to, we could mount our local directory into that container and continue development on this Laravel application. And we've not needed to install PHP locally at all. We're just purely using Docker for all of the dependencies and all of PHP.